In this video, we're going to draw Asuna and Kirito from the anime Sword Art Online. If you're a fan, I hope this illustration makes some justice to the characters and to the anime. And if you haven't watched it, what are you waiting for? Go and watch it now. Well, after you finish this video. Of course, I'm going to draw the characters in my own style. There's going to be a little bit more cartoony. You will have the sample to observe what I'm doing, but also you will notice that I will take a quite different direction. I'm going to do these characters using the proportion of 8 heads. Keeping in mind that we're going to have 4 heads all the way to the bottom part of the pelvis. To begin with, what I always tell my students, use simple shapes. Their head is going to be a circle and a triangular shape in the front. With the head size defined, I can measure the rest of the body. You see how I practically use only circles, ovals, and rectangles to create all the shape of the character. At this point, I'm defining sizes and angles. I think it's clear that this part of the process is very important, so take it with care because it is the base of the rest of the picture. If this part is right, possibly the rest of the process is going to go right. With these shapes, I'm framing the whole picture. In this point, over that base that we just did, we can start working on the actual shapes of the character. Over the base, to draw the face, the muscles, all the shapes we want to have in the character. Of course, it is very useful to know a little bit about anatomy. Still in the sketch process. Now, over this base, we can start drawing the rest of the elements that compose the character. Hair, clothes, decorations, armor. These are the elements that make the character be recognizable, very often much more than the face. This happens a lot in anime. The base of the characters is very similar within them, but what makes the characters recognizable is these elements. In Asuna, it is her brownish reddish hair, but also her white dress with red and gold details, her red short skirt, and even her sword and the hairstyle. In the case of Kirito, everything is black. His black, quite long hair, his long black coat, and even his black shirt and pants, and his sword. Asuna being white and Kirito being black. They complement each other like the yin and yang. Now with my sketch ready, I can start coloring the picture. So I'm going to start with the silhouette of the character. To color that silhouette, I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do it. For Asuna, I chose my drawing brush and drew all the silhouette. Then I used the fill tool to fill inside the silhouette. Finally, I filled the spaces between the color and the line. In Kirito, I used the selection tool and I selected inside the silhouette. Then I used the fill tool and finally I drew the edges. Which technique is better? The one you feel more comfortable with. Of course, I did all this in a layer under the lines layer. Now I start assigning different colors for different areas. Basically what anyone would do in a coloring book or a coloring page. To have more flexibility, I did this process in a clipping mask layer. Another time we have all been waiting for, the funny part of this process, shading. Although I could do this in a clipping mask, I decided to duplicate the color layer and adjust it to turn it into white. Then I used a purplish gray color to create one area mainly in light and one area mainly in shadow. I do this for both characters. Now I use my white color to illuminate some areas in the shadow areas, whenever the light should be irradiating the character. But also I do the opposite. I darken some light areas using my dark color. On a separate layer, using a darker color, I'm going to create some accent shades and some darker areas to create more contrast. But also using these darker colors, I'm going to create the terminator lines in rounded areas, such as legs, arms, or some areas of the body. I set this layer to overlay to have darker and also lighter colors. Using add, we can create different shiny areas, such as the highlight on the sword, or those highlights in the gold parts in Asuna's suit. Also using add, you can create the secondary lights. The ones in here were done on a separate layer. Secondary lights are very useful to give some extra depth to our picture. Now, before going to details to our characters, we are going to color the background. It is going to be a very simple background, basically what we already see in the reference picture. For me, it's just clear that I want it to be colorful but also dark. But also it should be very texturized. In this point, we need to make a very important decision. To continue with all our multiple layers or to merge them into one. In this case, I merged all the color layers, keeping separate the lines layer and the secondary light layer. With these layers merged, we can now give some extra texture to our picture. I do it using different texture brushes, as well as the smudge tool. To end the picture, we're going to define some fine details. We're going to draw the eyelashes, we're going to define the nostrils. We're going to give some extra texture to the hair, or to define Asuna's braid. We're going to define extra details in the clothing or in the swords, like the lines in Asuna's sword hilt. We can define the shape of their fingers using some extra lines. With these details, we finish the picture of Asuna and Kirito from the anime series Sword Art Online. Of course, drawn in my own style. I hope you enjoyed watching this process as much as I enjoyed drawing and painting it. And of course, I invite you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, share it with someone who can find this content useful. See you in the next video. Adios.